What was the secret of the Maccabees that they knew that allowed them to create the Maccabees?
Oh, Maccabees. Okay.
What was a Maccabees secret that allowed them to bring the victory of light over darkness in a way that, till today, wherever you go in the world, you see menorahs, you see the miracle of Hanukkah. We're celebrating. What is it that they had? Just for a story this year, Rabbi Chitzrik from Nuremberg. Nuremberg is a place where the Nazis made their announcement of revoking Jewish citizenship and their parades and the center of their activities in Nuremberg. And when the Nazis were judged after the war, where were they judged? They were judged in Nuremberg.
Right.
And in Nuremberg this year, you heard this story? Rabbi Chitzrik from Nuremberg got this email from this non-Jew who said that in Kristallnacht, when the Nazis were burning down all the Jewish stores and shuls, so this guy's uncle, he went into the shul, which was burning, and he stole the golden menorah in the shul. Why not, right? It's burning anyways, so he stole it. This non-Jewish guy's uncle stole the golden menorah, and he had it in his house for 84 years, and he wanted to give it back, but who's going to give it back to? But now the shul in Nuremberg is active, the same shul. And
same shul you stole it from.
Yeah, it was restored. And so he brought the menorah back, and this year, for the first time, they're lighting the menorah, which hasn't been lit in 84 years.
Wow.
So,
This year.
This year. So there's something that the Maccabees knew, some secret they knew, that allowed them to create their.
There is another story that Sefer Torah, that this Nazi, he cut the Sefer Torah in the place that, that Hashem is rebuking the Jews,
Oh, yeah, I think right there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, but this story brings out how the menorah's light is eternal and forever, and there's something about our personal struggles, our challenges, our ups and our downs, that we have to pay attention to from the story of Hanukkah to learn how to handle our own challenges from the way the Maccabees did and how they somehow created this eternal victory. So what was their secret? So and also in this week's Torah portion, we read about Yosef having a dream, and the dream comes true. What is it about Yosef and the Maccabees that allowed their dreams to come true forever? So look at this from the opinion of the Rambam about the story of Hanukkah. According to the Rambam, unlike most opinions, the Rambam holds that the Maccabees were victorious over their enemies on the 25th day of Hanukkah. When it was the final victory, the 25th day of Hanukkah. The 25th day of Kislev, rather. Yeah. So that means they entered into the Beis HaMikdash on the 25th day of Kislev, and then they go to light the menorah. So what night is that? It's the night of the 26th day of Kislev. So everyone wonders, how come we light the menorah according to the Rambam? On the night of the 25th day of Kislev, the first night of Hanukkah should have been the 26th day of Kislev. So one explanation is from the Rugas HaBeisim, David Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav. He says, they all say the following. They say like this: the Rambam is going according to his own opinion. The Rambam's opinion is that there's two parts of the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. There's lighting the menorah, and there's preparing the menorah to be lit. In the morning, the Kohen takes out the old wick that was burning the whole night, and all the ashes, and he cleans the cup, and removes the whole layer of ashes and everything, and then at night they light the menorah. So according to Rambam, removing the ashes is a mitzvah. It's not just a preparation for a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah in itself. So that
they were fighting for that, I think.
They were fighting for that, and they won, and they got the mitzvah of the menorah on the 25th day of Kislev. They achieved victory, and they got the menorah on that day. The lighting of the menorah was indeed the next night, the 26th day of Kislev. But we celebrate and we light the menorah on the first day of Hanukkah because we're celebrating the victory of being able to cleanse the cup and prepare it to be lit. So the question is, what's so special about cleaning up the ashes, cleaning up the wick? What does that mean? So the way the Griz explains it, it seems that there's two parts to this idea of cleaning up the cup of the menorah. One part is to actually just clean it, and then there's another to prepare it. Then there is some intrinsic value of the ashes themselves. What do they do with those ashes? So according to the Rambam, just like they took the ashes from the inner altar and the outer altar, they put them next to the mizbeach, next to the altar, and it miraculously was swallowed up in the ground. Time to time, they would take the ashes outside the camp, but the ashes of the menorah were placed next to the altar. So it was such an important thing to the Kohanim to participate in this service that the Gemara says that the way they gave this honor was by a race. Whoever made it up the ramp first, he was the one who was given this honor. What happened if you were second? You didn't get it. What if you were almost first and someone's getting past you? So it was very challenging for the Kohanim to withdraw from this honor. And in fact, one time Yankel, says the Gemara, knocked Shmerel off the altar, off the ramp, and he broke his leg. And so the Gemara says from that moment on, they made a new rule that this honor is going to be apportioned by a lottery, a lot safer system. But the question is, what was so important about doing this that was so valuable to the Kohanim? So there's a discourse of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe explains the meaning of the ashes that are put next to the altar, and the ashes that are taken outside the camp. And he says there's two different kinds of ashes. What are ashes? Ashes are things which are dirty, which are ichi. We're going to get rid of them. It doesn't seem very valuable. In fact, we would wonder why in the Bais Hamikdash at all would there be ashes. You'd think in the Bais Hamikdash so many miracles happened. There were never any flies in the Bais Hamikdash, and the sacrificial meat, the karbonis, never had any foul odor. So why wouldn't it be appropriate that in the temple, in the same menorah which has one candle, the Ner Ma'aravi, the western candle, that always was lit and never was extinguished, there always all other candles had enough oil to last till the morning, and the western candle, a miracle happened with it every day, it lasts until the next night. But the question is, why is it that Hashem saw fit to leave the ashes there in the first place? What's the value of the ashes? And which ashes are the ones that are part of the service? You put them next to the altar and they're swallowed in the ground. And what are the ashes which are taken outside the camp? Everything in the Torah is a message for us in our service of Hashem. What does that have to do with us? So the Alter Rebbe says like this: what are ashes? Ashes are a thing. Look at the ashes and you know that something has died, something is gone. There was a fire here before, and now the fire is no longer here. There was something that the fire burnt, and that thing is no longer here. Now all you have is the ashes. So inside of ourselves, we have a similar experience. When we feel very dry, we feel very empty, we feel like that we wish we could be excited about our Judaism. We wish we could be excited when we daven, and excited when we learn, excited when we give tzedakah. And we don't feel that excitement. We feel uchi. So the Alter Rebbe says that those ashes are actually valuable. Those ashes are actually the preparation for the next fire. A lot of people, when they start keeping Judaism, they come Baal Tshuva, and they have this euphoric, this excitement, and they look like they're climbing up the ski slope, and they're going to go higher and higher, and just never fall. And then when they do, chas v'shalom, they don't know what to do with themselves. Like, wow, how did that happen? I was going higher and higher and higher, but everybody goes up and everybody goes down, and halavai vanity. So that's the meaning of the ashes. The ashes are actually if we didn't have the ashes, we didn't have that empty feeling. We didn't have that dryness. We didn't have that burnt out feeling. we wouldn't ever rise again. It's that burnt out feeling that we have that makes us want to do more. It's the emptiness that we feel after we've risen, after we've gone so high, that is a sign that we're missing something. In other words, that's in the pasuk. The people walking in darkness saw a great light. When do you feel that you're walking in darkness? When you've once seen a great light. If you never saw a great light, you wouldn't know you're in the dark. A blind person from birth doesn't feel different when he's walking, in a dark place. What makes us feel so empty is because there's a part of us that yearns for this connection to Hashem, that wants this connection to Hashem, and therefore we feel missing. We don't have it because we once felt it, and there's a part of us that's missing it. That's why we feel upset. So that upsetness is the ashes, and it's very valuable. There was a Jew who was part of the group of soldiers that liberated the Western Wall, and he was not very religious, he was very apathetic, not just atheistic, but he was very like I don't care about this stuff, leave me alone. And he was crying like a baby, and one of his fellow soldiers was like, "Why are you crying?" He says, "I'm crying because I'm not crying, and everyone else is crying. Everyone else feels a connection. I don't feel that connection. I'm crying because I'm not crying." So this is similar to what the Tzemach Tzedek said to a chassid, complained to the Tzemach Tzedek. He says, "I have machshava zaras during davening. I have thoughts I shouldn't be thinking about during davening." Tzemach Tzedek says, "So what?" He said, "What do you mean? I want to daven to Hashem and I have all these thoughts coming to my head." In Hebrew, the word machshava zaras means strange thoughts. Just to veer off for a second, another story. There was a guy who came to complain to his rabbi. He says, "I have strange thoughts." He says, "Those aren't strange thoughts; those are your own. Those are machshava zaras." But here, but conversely, the Hasidic, the Chabad Hasidic version of the story is the story of Tzemach Tzedek, where he's complaining to Tzemach Tzedek, he has these strange thoughts, and Tzemach Tzedek says the fact that it bothers you indicates that these are indeed strange thoughts, and they're not your own thoughts. The fact that you don't want them to be there, that shows that there's something there in you. The fact that we fall is because there's something in us that makes us fall. Why is the Samach Mem? Why is the Yetzer Hara? Why are we challenged when you make a step forward? Where is that coming from? That challenge. That challenge is from the Yetzer Hara. The fact that there's a challenge means that there's something to steal from. That means that you have a value. You have something there, and therefore you're being challenged. It's not because the Gemara says Hashem gives the camel the burden that the camel can handle. So if I want to steal, I'm going to steal where there's money. So I'm not going to steal where there's no money. If I have a richness inside myself, the Yetzer Hara is going to look for me because he knows that I have something inside me that he could steal. The fact that we fall means that we have a holy fire in us. The fact that we have ashes, the fact that we feel upset about where we are, is because we know where we're supposed to be. So this is why davening is compared to the sacrifices. Just like when they brought the sacrifices, there was ashes left over, so too when you daven, as you get into it, the Torah puts in these things. The davening has as you get further and further into the davening, there are more and more ashes. What do I mean? When you get into davening, after you say, the Alter Rebbe says, how come in the middle of Shemona Esrei we say, forgive us, atone for us? Why don't you just, before you start davening, ask for forgiveness, and then start davening? The answer is that you don't even realize there are things to ask forgiveness for until you get into it. When you feel the love and closeness to Hashem, then you feel that you're missing something. My Alta Zeder, Avrama Yor, he was once farbrengen on during the 10 days of Tshuva. Farbrengen, they serve alcohol, and they chassidically challenged man walks into the farbrengen, and he's like, the 10 days of Tshuva too, you guys are making these parties, like what's going on? So my Elder Zayda told him the following. I'm not going to convey it the way he did, but the way I heard it from Kli Shlishi, it was like this: that when someone sins against the king has an option. Option is off with his head, throw him in the dungeon. But that's not going to accomplish anything. What you really want to do is you want to explain to this person what a king is, who the king is, and how devoted the king is, and what the king does for this person. and why this person's life is dependent on the king. And when he understands exactly who the king is, what the king is all about, then he himself will have a total reversal inside himself, a whole revolution within, and that will cause a transformation. And for that, Rav Ramayur said, you have to have a farbrengen. You have to say l'chaim. So, middle of davening, we say, forgive us, because then we need to be forgiven. When you finish Shemana Esrei, you say that the confessionary prayer, because then you need to be forgiven. It's kind of like the Rebbe Cashapp told the previous Rebbe after Yom Kippur. He said to him, now you have to start doing tshuva. Why start doing tshuva after Yom Kippur? The answer is specifically after you've reached the highest level of Yom Kippur, then you realize, there's so much more. Or in Yom Kippur itself, who are the people which are so into it in Yom Kippur? The ones who come once a year? Not necessarily. People who are into davening, they're into their learning, they're the ones who are sensitive to their faults, and they're sensitive to how much more they're supposed to be. I remember someone, two chassidim in Vernois, someone was telling me about them. Rabbi Bezalel Chabad, what's his name? Bezalel. Basically, the whole Yom Kippur, they just stand in the same place and they cry the whole Yom Kippur. The whole Yom Kippur, crying the whole Yom Kippur. These are Bolnitsky. Anyways, so think about your children. Your children grow up and they say, "Mommy, Daddy, my pants don't fit anymore." What do you say? Wow, that's because you're growing. And so too emotionally they develop, and they say, "Mommy, I shouldn't have spoken to you the way I spoke to you yesterday." That's a good sign. That's a sign of growth. That's the meaning why our prayers are like the sacrifices. They leave ashes. They leave us feeling that we're missing something. So,
There was good.
Huh?
There was good fire.
There was a good fire, and there's still something there. There was a group of college students who came to the Rebbe, and they asked all kinds of interesting, insolent questions, chutzpah questions. Sometimes you need a chutzpah question to describe something. So one of them asked the Rebbe, I heard that the Rebbe has, I heard that a Rebbe, didn't say about the Rebbe, I heard a Rebbe doesn't make mistakes. Does the Rebbe have an eraser on his pencil? And the Rebbe said, a Rebbe has an eraser on his pencil because the Rebbe goes higher and higher. So without the ashes, without the feeling of we're missing something, we wouldn't get very far. That's what the Torah says. Right after it says to take the ashes outside the camp, what does it say? It says a constant fire should be on the altar. Take the fire outside. Take the ashes off the altar. And there should be a constant fire. What gives you a constant fire? It's the fact that you feel that you're missing something. The fact that you feel this, it's a sign that there's something in you. That's what the Torah says. Lift up the ashes. These ashes are what lift you up and they bring you to the next level. Without them, there wouldn't be an impetus to grow. So when we look at the ashes, we have to remember two things. Number one is that there was once a fire here that we could see, and number two, that this is a preparation for the next fire. This is there to remind us that we're supposed to light the menorah again. That there's a fire within us that needs to be lit. And this is why the Torah says that there are two kinds of ashes. One group of ashes is put next to the altar, part of the service. Then there's another group of ashes. What's the other group of ashes? The other group of ashes is meant to be thrown outside, thrown away, not just from the altar, not just from the temple, but thrown out of the camp, completely away from Jerusalem. It can't be there. Why? What are those ashes? Those ashes are very similar to the first, but very not. The first ashes are called in Chassidic lexicon mrirus, bitterness. It's a strong feeling. I want to do better. The second are ashes of depression, ashes which say to you, you are worthless. You can't do anything. What you've done is has no value. Those ashes, Alter Rebbe says, throw out of the camp. They're not going to help you. Like the story that I share all the time about the guy sitting by the Rebbe's farbrengen, and the Rebbe says, one action is better than 1,000 sighs. So what does the guy do when he hears this? Oy! So the Rebbe says, when a Jew hears one action is better than 1,000 sighs, what does he do? He starts a sigh. It's opposite of serving Hashem. It's opposite of the path of Chabad. It's true you have to take in a calculation of what happened, but that's only in order to, not to feel like a doormat, it's only in order to do better the next day. So when we feel that we've fallen, we have to know two things. We have to know that as we say in our prayers, remove the Satan from in front of us, remove the Satan from behind us. What does that mean? Before you do the wrong thing, Yetzer Hara says to you, enjoy it, you deserve it, let go, just relax. And then after you do the thing that you're not proud of, what does Yetzer Hara say to you? You see, I told you, you're a goy, you're worthless, you're completely worthless. So in front of us and then behind us. And so when we fall, we have to realize that there is a reason we're falling. The reason we're falling is because we have inside of us two parts, Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. And when we've fallen, we feel we're missing something because our neshama is still there. When Hashem appears to Moshe Rabbeinu, he appears to him first in a burning bush. What's the burning bush? The fire in the burning bush is a fire of holiness, a fire of wanting to be close to Hashem. The burning bush is the Yetzer Hara. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you should know that until Mashiach comes, the bush will not be burnt. Until Mashiach comes, you're going to have Yetzer Hara. It's going to come back. You can't completely erase it with your love for Hashem. It's going to come back. And it's meant to come back in order to bring you to a higher fire the next time. To go to a higher place than what you were before. It's, that feeling of despondency is meant to bring you up, not to bring you down. You were lifted up by the ashes. This explains how interesting halacha that we have by the menorah. The Gemara says that when you light the menorah, if the menorah goes out, you're not responsible to relight the menorah. Once you lit the menorah, don't worry about it. People do relight the menorah, it's a good thing. You're supposed to relight the menorah. It's not an obligation, according to this opinion. Kavsa in zakakol. You've done your mitzvah. You could relight it. It's nice to relight it, but you're not in zakakol. No obligation. Why? What Hashem is telling us with this mitzvah is that you say to yourself, I've davened yesterday. It was great, but I know that it's worthless because today I didn't daven. Today I didn't do it. Today I yelled at somebody. Today I wasn't kind to somebody. Today I had a behavior which leaves much to be desired. So what I did yesterday was worthless. So Hashem tells you, no. What you did yesterday, Hashem recreates the world every second, and yesterday is forever. Every moment is forever. Every mitzvah is forever. And Hashem tells you, fire has ashes. And there is something there that's left. It's not, you haven't completely eradicated the Yetzer Hara. And the fact that Yetzer Hara is attacking you is not because you're not normal. It's not because you're weird that you fall. It's not because you're the only guy in the world that has the Yetzer Hara. I know one Jew, he came to the Rebbe the first time, and he wrote to the Rebbe, he thought he was supposed to tell the Rebbe his machshavas zaros, all the things he shouldn't be thinking about. So he wrote to the Rebbe a long letter, telling him he felt like he's the only male in Moscow. He's the only guy who has all these kinds of things that are going on in their head. And the Rebbe told him to even in cup to vote, to put himself into learning until it's over his head. And but the point I want to say is that if we fall and we rise, that just means that we're human. As the Gemara says, even tzaddikim don't rest in the world. They're always supposed to go higher and higher. And even those who are not tzaddikim, we rise and we fall, and it's normal. And the purpose of this feeling of why is this emptiness after we've risen, after we've fallen, and this emptiness is meant to be an impetus to, no, I'm missing something. I still have a fire in me that wants to be close to Hashem, and that's why I feel lacking when it's not there. Rabbi of Kalin famously said, where sadness can bring you, no sin can bring you. Where happiness can bring you, no mitzvah can bring you. So two things. First thing is that there is a negative feeling that has a positive value. The feeling of like, I want to do better. I want to be closer. I feel empty without that love to Hashem that I felt the day before. That's good. That ashes means you once had a fire and that you're bothered. You don't feel that way today. That's good. That's a good feeling. That's meant to be there. That's a good thing. And that's the Torah says, those ashes are part of the service. Put them next to the altar. But there are other ashes, the Torah says, throw it out of the camp, and those are the ashes of despondency, of depression, of saying to yourself, you're worthless. The fact that you fall means that you are hopeless. So those ashes, Hashem says, those aren't going to help you. That's from the Samach Mam, that's from Klippah. The first ashes are from Kedusha. The first ashes are holy. They're going to make you light the fire again in a different way than you did before. So it is a little bit of a dangerous subject because The Rebbe says in our time, we can't even do the first kind of ashes. The first kind of ashes for most of us is going to are going to paralyze us. But I'm pointing out though that in the times that we do feel like we're missing something, we need to do something with it. It's not just it's when you feel we're missing something, you're not supposed to focus on these kind of ashes today. The Rebbe says for two reasons we don't need to have these bitter feelings. Reason number one is because of the Holocaust and all the different pain the Jewish people experienced, so they don't need to be cleansed anymore, the Rebbe said, through feelings of bitterness. Reason number two, the Rebbe said, is because we're about to enter the time of Mashiach, and so therefore we're identical to being on a Friday morning or Friday afternoon before Shabbos. In history, there are 7 days of the week corresponding to the 7 millennia, so we're on Friday afternoon. It says in Tanya, you should only have bitterness on Thursday night, once a week. A Thursday night Shabbat, you should focus on being bitter about what's going on in your life. But the Rebbe says we're already past that. We're on Friday afternoon. So bitterness is not a thing we should focus on. But yet, there are bitter feelings. And when they're there, we should know what to do with them. And that is, those feelings are a sign that you once had something amazing in you, and that you can have that again, and that's why you're bothered. That's why Yitzhahar is trying to rob your bank, because there's money there. All right, that's and that was the secret of the Maccabees. And that's why they created this light that lasts forever. How do they create the light that lasts forever? Because they saw, as the Baal Shem Tov says, light is the numerical equivalent to the word secret. Or is 207, and Raz is 207. What allows you to illuminate a situation? Knowing the secret of it, knowing what's inside it. Why do you feel bitter? Why do you feel upset? Because you could do better, because there's a part of you that wants this. And the bitter feeling is meant to create something deeper. If you feel that something's going on, I'm empty. Where is it coming from? It's not anything else other than a calling for an neshama. Dig deeper, and to find that pure cruse of oil and light them in a way that lasts forever. This is how we get to the finish line. The finish line. Any questions or comments?
That's good.
All right. Because we should get to the time with no questions or comments. Time to be a Mashiach.